Good afternoon and welcome to our February 27th regular council meeting of Monday, February 27, 2023. I apologize for some technical issues that we're dealing with at the moment, and we're going to be videotaping the live stream portion, and we're going to add the audio tomorrow. So I'll call the meeting to order at 5:13 p.m. Is there any, the first item up is agenda item 1.1, the Land Acknowledgement. The town of Coaldale acknowledges that we are gathered on the lands of the Blackfoot peoples of the Canadian Plains and pays respect to the Blackfoot peoples past, present, and future while recognizing their cultural heritage, beliefs, and relationship to the land. The town of Coaldale is also home to the Métis Nation of Alberta, Region number 3. Agenda item 1.2, conflict of interest declaration, pecuniary and non-pecuniary. Are there any in the room this afternoon? None declared, thank you. Moving on to acceptance of the agenda for the regular council meeting of February 27, 2023. Are there any additions to the agenda? I'm just going to be moving a couple of items around. I'm going to be moving up under new business, agenda item 8.1, the swearing in of our deputy mayor position for Jason Beekman. That'll be taking place at 5:05. And then at 5:10 p.m. under new business, agenda item 8.2, we will have our Staff Sergeant Mike Numan present the R.C.M.P. Q3 update. Any other additions? Last chance. Seeing none, could I get someone to make a motion to adopt the agenda as amended? Deputy Mayor Pickering. Any further discussion? I'll call the question. All those in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. So, first item under new business then, 5:05, swearing in of Deputy Mayor Jason Beekman. We're going to have our R.C.M.P. Staff Sergeant Mike Numan do the ceremony.
Beekman, I'm going to read an official oath for you. I'll get you to take the Bible in your right hand, please. Hold on to it. Repeat after me. I'll read the whole sentence and then you can read. I, Jason Beekman, swear that I will diligently, faithfully, and to the best of my ability execute according to law the office of Deputy Mayor for the town of Coaldale. So help me God.
I, Jason Beekman, swear that I will diligently, faithfully, and to the best of my ability execute according to law the office of Deputy Mayor for the town of Coaldale. So help me God.
So sworn. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Handshake for a picture.
Oh, yes.
Perfect.
Mayor, you want to do one? Yes.
Perfect.
Congratulations.
I think 4 shots myself. I'm going to cheerful, but no.
Once again, congratulations, Deputy Mayor Beekman, and I also want to thank Councillor Dale Pickering for his service as Deputy Mayor, and as stated before, same with Councillor Avery when he was Deputy Mayor. I still plan on keeping you on the files that you were working on, so
Thank you, Mayor Van Rijn.
thank you. Moving on to under new business agenda item 8.2, we have our Staff Sergeant Mike Numan from the R.C.M.P. is going to be presenting his Q3 update. So Mike, if you want to take a seat at the gallery table there, please. And when you're settled in, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Your Worship, and councillors, all the employees. It's been a few months since I was here last, before Christmas sometime. First, I wanted to start off by thanking all those that were able to attend our detachment blessing and naming ceremony. It was an interesting day, and I learned a lot that day. I think we all did. So, if you get a chance, stop by the R.C.M.P. detachment. We just kind of did a commemorative board up with a couple pictures and a plaque. So it's turned out nice. It's in the front lobby. So thanks again for those who attended. You all would have received our Q3 stats. So we are a month or almost 2 months since the stats came out. So these are from October to December of 2022. So that's a 3-month snapshot, I suppose. So I went through these stats. Again, these statistics are, for a town this size, quite low. Not a lot of crime happening in the town of Coaldale and surrounding compared to other places in the province. Having said that, when I looked at the Q3 stats, we had some increases in certain areas, those including criminal harassment, which I'll speak to in a minute, possession of stolen property or theft, those types of offenses, failed to comply with condition offenses, Mental Health Act calls, a huge increase in that, and that's quite consistent with what we've seen. It's been steadily increasing over the past year and a half or two to deal with COVID. Increasing collisions for some reason in the town itself, and pretty good increase in impaired driving and suspensions as well. The criminal harassment and fail to comply charges resulting mostly from domestic type files that we investigate, where we'll arrest somebody and charge them, and then they're on conditions. Oftentimes those conditions will get breached, and they'll continue bothering, harassing, and that's where we're seeing those increases, not just in the town of Coaldale, but through the whole detachment area, both detachments, as well as other parts of Alberta. Mental health calls are certainly a concern to us. We have our new RPAC position, which is the R.C.M.P. member that's going to be partnered with an Alberta Health nurse, psychologist, nurse. Unfortunately, we have our member in place who's been working since October. We are still waiting for the province to commit to their fulfillment of that nurse position. So we are trying to hold them to account for that, and we hope this new fiscal shortly here we'll be able to get our PAC person partnered with a nurse, and they'll be much more effective, I'm sure. In relation to the year-to-year stats, in the package there was half a page document that shows you basically from 2021 to 2022 stats. Those are very consistent with what I just explained for the quarter. We had an increase from 2021 to 2022 in persons and property crimes, mostly property crimes, lots of stolen property that's being taken from easy opportunity places such as yards, sheds, businesses that are left unlocked or unguarded, I guess, or too easy for criminals to take an opportunity. Impaireds are up 38%, which with our new Alberta legislation, it makes it much easier for us to do these investigations quicker and efficiently. With the mandatory alcohol screening, our officers just, everybody that we stop and encounter driving a vehicle is asked to blow into our breath sample machine, and that we are finding that numbers are going up quite a bit across the whole province because of that program. We used to have reasonable grounds to make that demand to have them blow. Now it's just it's an automatic thing where everybody blows, whether you're sober or not, it doesn't matter. And the increase from 14% in motor vehicle collisions in the town, from 73 in 2021 to 83 this past year. So I'm not sure if we had an extra interesting winter. I know we started off with a bang there in October, November with some interesting weather and through December, so that could account for it as well. That's in a nutshell is the statistics that I wanted to cover. Was there any questions that I could answer on that, or if you wish, or if I could go through the whole presentation and then get questions at the end?
Please do that.
Okay, let's make it a little more streamlined. I just wanted to update you on a few things that I spoke about previously when I was before you. An update on our Coaldale Picture Butte Detachment merger. That merger was finally approved by all the parties that needed to do so. And in January, we began the process of merging the two detachments to a degree. And that is working very well. We've streamlined our processes between the two detachments, combined schedules, and we are for sure going to see the fruits of that endeavor here shortly once our staffing, which I'll talk about here, gets back into normal levels. The staffing updates, we had 3 corporal vacancies for quite some time now. I'm happy to say that we've hired 3 new corporals. All 3 of them are new to the area, going to be coming here. One arrived last week and started his first shift last week. We have one that has to sell a house in Manitoba and one that has to sell a house in Cardston. So depending on how that goes, we could see them anywhere from 1 month to who knows how long. Dave, my operations sergeant, and I are very happy to get some corporals back into our office. That's been a key missing piece. It puts a lot of pressure on Dave and myself. Plus it puts a lot of responsibility on our mostly young constables that are looking for that guidance in relationship with their road supervisors. So we're excited about that. I also have 2 new constables that are experienced but new to the area coming. One's coming beginning of March here shortly, and another one will be starting in April. They're both about 3 to 4 years service, so they're second post. So we're excited to have them as well. I'm also happy to say that many of the members that are moving here are choosing to reside within Coaldale, which is excellent for us, having them close to the detachment and being part of the community here as well. So I do know that we had a fall community session last year, a town hall, and I'd like to put that back on the plate for this year. I think we talked about making it an annual thing. I think it's a great opportunity to talk with our citizens and get them have a chance to meet with us and with Mayor and Council as well. I do have somebody who is been doing a lot of presentations on community safety. How can businesses protect themselves? How can community members protect themselves from property crimes? Talking about making your place a little more invincible, both home and business. And she has agreed to come and present at that. And I think that would be a great opportunity. So I'd like to put that on the table to follow up with. That Oh, and we just wanted to mention, working quite a bit with the CPOs in town, your CPOs, Mark and his crew. Mark has been excellent to work with. He's always stopping by, or we're having coffee, oftentimes with Kaylin as well, just to talk about similar things that are going on, how they can help us, how we can help them. Do some joint operations. We're working on a lot of events in town together anyway, such as the parade, the Christmas parade. And I just wanted to let you know that is a good relationship that is only getting stronger. We'll continue to do that. That was the presentation I had for you, and I'm open to any and all questions from Mayor and Council.
Mike, can you just touch on the upgrades to the 911 system?
Yes, something new you all received in your package there. This is not just for police, this is for the 911 system broad, so whether you need police, fire, or any other type of EMS emergency. They're going to offer a lot more services, better service, and I have some highlighted things here that I picked out of the documents that were included in your package. I can give you the improvements. Will provide safer service delivery with better location accuracy. Oftentimes we get a 911 call. It's very frustrating for our members because it's a radius of 3,000 or 10,000 feet, which is a long way. We're talking miles when somebody is in an emergency situation, but the problem is that they're pinging off of cell towers, which oftentimes that's the closest location you get is the cell tower of that cell phone. Three-dimensional mapping, improved crash data, so it will show vehicles, what type of extensive damage to that vehicle, especially the newer vehicles with OnStar, etc. Real-time video and picture sharing, so people can send 911 pictures or videos, and that can be to the responding unit, whether it's police, fire, EMS. Texting ability for 911 for the deaf and hard of hearing community. Language assistance and translation services. We have a lot of people from other countries that are choosing to live in Canada and Coaldale. So we're trying to make sure that everybody has the same ability to phone 911 and that we can respond in a quick way. And improved and coordinated responses and information sharing amongst emergency service providers. And I think that's our biggest frustration now, is there's often times when your Coaldale Fire Department is at a collision and they're there for 15-20 minutes and they realize that we aren't there, so they phone their dispatch, and you got dispatched because it's a collision to fire. Police never were called, or vice versa. It's happened both ways. So it's that making sure that everybody that needs to know knows right away so we can get there. Because if it's a criminal investigation, time is of the essence for us to make sure that we get the best information and evidence we can in the most timely fashion. Otherwise, the courts ask us why. So that's a summary of it. It needs to get a lot better, and I know that there's been lots of struggles with 911 just because each agency handles their own 911 calls, and the delays of communication between the three agencies are slow.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And then for the town hall meeting, that was in October. We did that last year, I believe.
Yes.
So I'll let administration communicate with you and pick a date so that we can get that in the calendar then.
That'd be great.
Okay. Are there any questions for the staff sergeant? Councillor Chapman.
Thank you, Mayor, and through the staff sergeant, thank you so much for your report this afternoon. A couple of questions here. Just if you could give us an update on the victim services and how that's been working. We've been trying to advocate both at the provincial level and elsewhere on the need to keep it local, and if you could just update us on that.
I can update you as much as I know. The province and the Solicitor General is pushing ahead with their model of regionalized victim services. They are actively hiring now in those positions. I only know this because our coordinator here, Adonis, has mentioned that to me. So really, it's a Solicitor General program that works together with the R.C.M.P and other police forces. So we are kind of the last to know what's happening in this situation, but I do know they are pushing forward, and they have, I believe, a target date of this time next year to be fully implemented across the province in the regional concept with executive director in each region and then some sort of a staff regime under that. So we'll have to monitor that as it goes, I guess, and see where that office is going to be, whether it's going to be in Coaldale or will it be in Lethbridge, or I'm not sure. None of that has been shared with me yet.
The regional concept that goes with it.
Yeah.
Okay. The other question I do have is with your overall crime stats. Appreciate hearing what you brought forward, and just with that, I know that some of those stats really are helpful with our economic development in Canada. I think helped or been able to bring some of that data toward the council's interest, and particularly in our reports and that sort of thing. I trust that relationship will continue with some of that data that's helpful for the town.
Absolutely. We're quite often, I wouldn't say quite often, but I know for financial reasons, for planning for your fiscal year, I know that we've worked with Kyle to get data on how many tickets are being written for photo radar, that type of thing. We'll continue to do that. I have the ability to, not that I'm that smart to do it off our database, but I have people that are very good at pulling stats off. So if there's any particular area that Mayor and Council wish to explore, I can provide it's called a Mayor's Report, and it's basically this, but it breaks it down even more, and it's a lot of stats. And stats are only good as people that call in or don't call in, right? So, but it's a baseline to start with, right? And it shows the trends and up and downs, and that's what we try and do in this report as well. Just kind of show you the big trends in the area.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions for the Staff Sergeant? Seeing none, could I get someone to make a motion that Council receive the R.C.M.P. Q3 update as information? Deputy Mayor Beekman. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you, Mike. If you want to just take a seat in the gallery, and we'll call you up when we do the COP delegation.
Thank you.
Okay, we're just going to back up and go to agenda item 3.1, the regular council meeting minutes from February 13th, 2023. Everybody had a chance to review those. Were there any errors or omissions in the minutes? Seeing none, can I get a motion to adopt the minutes as circulated? Councillor Reese, any discussion? All those in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay, Cameron, let's go to item 7.1, the Lethbridge County and Town of Coaldale Intermunicipal Development Plan Bylaw 861-P-01-23, first reading. And then we have Cameron Mills, our Director of Investment and Growth, presenting. Cameron, when you're ready, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mayor and Council. So I have the pleasure of presenting Bylaw 861P0123 to Council for consideration for first reading. This is the Town of Coaldale's Intermunicipal Development Plan Bylaw. So as Council's aware, administration has been engaged with working with Lethbridge County for a period of the better part of a year on the redrafting of our intermunicipal development plan. The intermunicipal development plan is a statutory document that the town uses, and all municipalities have them in place with neighboring municipalities. And what they do is they provide guidance and direction in terms of planning decisions that are made along the borders of those communities, particularly within what's known as the Intermunicipal Development Plan region within the document. And what this update to the plan does, our previous plan is from 2010, we've gone through annexation since then. We've adjusted the borders out accordingly and also updated some of our policies. The plan itself provides a number of tools for us, primarily at an administrative level. A significant amount of the what is contained within the plan provides guidance for administration in terms of how we're expected to work with our counterparts at the county. So things like how long we should give each other for circulation of proposals that come within the planning district, and how we should accept their feedback and that sort of thing. The plan itself, or the bylaw itself, is attached to the report, and we are asking council to provide first reading so that we can go to a public hearing at the following council meeting in early March. That public hearing will take place, I believe it's the day after the county will be doing the same. So the county is considering this bylaw fundamentally at the same time, and both municipalities have to adopt the bylaw in order for it to be a document of merit, as it were. So we're looking to do that shortly after the county does that in early March. I'd be happy to answer questions if anyone has any with respect to this. Sorry, one more note. We did have a open house. Many councillors had an opportunity to attend that. That would have been back, I believe, late November. We had a good turnout, primarily county residents turning out to learn about the plan and how it might affect them. And that feedback from that is we incorporated into the final version of the plan.
Thank you. So Deputy Mayor Beekman and Councillor Abreu and myself sat on that committee and worked with Cameron and his team in Lethbridge County, and the process went very well, I thought. So good job to both teams. Any questions for Cameron?
Quick question, Mayor, through to Cam. Did the Sunny South News report this? Did the Sunny South News report it as the county having passed it already, or did they just do first reading?
I believe first reading.
Okay.
Any further questions? Then I'm looking for someone to sponsor a motion that council provide first reading of the Intermunicipal Development Plan Bylaw 861-P-01-23 and further schedule the public hearing to be held at the regular council meeting of March 13th, 2023 at 5:05 p.m. Councillor Saylor makes that motion. Any discussion? I'll call the question. All those in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you, Cameron. Okay, so now we're going to back up to delegation by appointment. We have with us this evening Kimberly Hurst, the Citizens on Patrol Director, and we have R.C.M.P. Constable Kyler Short, and we have our Staff Sergeant Mike Numan. If the three of you want to come up to the gallery table, please. And then Tom Anderson, if you want to join him as well. And before we start the presentation, we're just going to watch a 4-minute video regarding the Citizens on Patrol.
We work with the R.C.M.P. as their extra eyes and ears. Some people think we're crazy to be out in the middle of the night doing stuff, but if we don't do it, who's going to do it? There's not enough police to get around.
Our members are deployed all over the province. They can't be everywhere at the same time. So it's really important that we have that partnership. And Citizens on Patrol is a vital partnership in being those eyes and ears and reporting those crimes. And it's in sharing that information that we are able to be strategic in how to respond to crime that's occurring in our communities.
If you don't report it, then there's no record of the crime. The more you report it, you stand a better chance of getting more police.
When we look at the offenders in the province, 10% of the offenders commit 58% of the crime impact in Alberta. So the crime reduction units are focused on those offenders and disrupting that criminal activity. At the core of that strategy is data and intelligence. And data and intelligence really has to do with everything from report of mischief or theft from a vehicle, through to the more serious offenses we're talking about. We look at all of that information, we collate it, and that really starts to guide those patrols, our operations, where the crime reduction units have specialized operations they'll deploy in areas that are heavily crime impacted. All of that information guides our response. Initiatives like Project Lockup are part of targeted prevention, so looking at those people that are repeat victims of break and enter, and then trying to address with them what are the reasons that their properties are vulnerable, what's drawing criminals to, on a repeated basis, either the same criminals or different criminals to their property, and what are the things they can put in place to target harden their property and actually make them less vulnerable.
Since Project Lockup was started, we had 37% decrease in re-victimization to the properties that I did site visits to. So we're going out to see how can we fortify your property. Sometimes it's just as simple as lighting on the outside of the building. One of the businesses that I did go to, one of the main things that changed her business was the lighting. She actually had customers coming inside the store saying, "I feel so safe now in your parking lot." Criminals don't like to be seen. They don't like to operate in areas where they think they have the potential to be seen. They don't like well-lit areas. They like to work anonymously or feel like they're anonymous and invisible. So by taking that away from them is one of the means to deter the crime. Where Citizens on Patrol has been beneficial is because they are out patrolling. They're extra eyes. They relay fabulous information to the police officers. They do provide a huge safety for the community.
It's very important to recognize with COP that there's over 2,000 volunteers in the province of Alberta that work hand in hand with the police here, and the work that they do is very important to us. So I wish we had more of these organizations because they really do a lot for us.
What makes this all worth it for me is that I actually have seen people arrested. We've actually come up on a few things that have happened. We're out driving around, and some nights we don't see anything but rabbits. The next time you go out, you see lots of stuff happening. But I think that if we were around, crime would increase. Because we're another set of headlights on the street at night, and we're looking for stuff that's going on and reporting it to the police. You just got to be interested in your community to get involved. Makes you feel really like you've done something. And that's why I do it.
So a discussion about Citizens on Patrol started with the staff sergeant, I'm going to say last June or something.
Well, officers got help last night.
When you approached and we had a discussion about the Citizens on Patrol program. So then we started looking into it a little bit more. We reached out to the town of Tabor that's had a program running for, I remember, 20 years, they said. And at that meeting, Councillor Chapman, Councillor Reese, and myself, along with the staff sergeant and Constable Short, attended. And it was kind of an eye-opener for us to see what it all takes to make something like this work. So we spoke about it more at our town hall meeting this last October that Kimberly attended. And finally, we're all together here now that we can discuss this to see if this is something that we want to move forward with. A little bit more background information. Tom Anderson, he was working on gaining support from our residents to try and build a small core group to get this off and running. And I'll let Tom speak to that in a moment as well. But first of all, I would like to have Kimberly kind of explain the program to council, how it works, how you envision it working here. And if you could do that for us, please.
First, I'd just like to thank you, Mayor and Council, for having me back again. I appreciate your involvement in the program. It's a good program. We've seen it work in many areas. I myself have come across a number of different things when I've been out over the last 10, 12 years, so it is a beneficial program. Something I wanted to answer for you guys was probably some of the most popular questions that I was asked at Town Hall, and then I've been emailed from members of community from Coaldale as well. People were concerned about insurance and liability and how are they covered when they're out and how would that work for them. And they would be covered through insurance that is purchased through the Provincial Association of Alberta Citizens on Patrol. So all of our organizations, we find it easier if everybody is under the same umbrella for insurance. We do have some terms of agreement through K Division as far as patrolling, that we must go out in pairs. There must be 2 people in a vehicle at all time to be covered under insurance. Members do need to work out with their local detachment on how they're going to let on-duty members know that they're out and about. You are not covered under insurance if you do not let them know that you're out, and you do need to be in pairs. I've had people ask about the process of applying, who can apply. The process, they can contact me, you can contact the local detachment. I've given Constable Short access to a lot of information that he can have a look at, and, but I'm here as well to answer any questions. Members do need to be at least 18 years of age or older. And something we found provincially is just because somebody passes a criminal record check does not mean they're an ideal fit. We've had people coming in with mixed reasonings as to why they're wanting to come. It's to protect your community as a whole, not to be looking at saying something about your neighbor that's upset you for the last 10 years or whatever. Like, there are specific reasons why we're out there helping our community and helping the R.C.M.P. You guys especially have quite a large area that your R.C.M.P. members are covering, and it's absolutely impossible for them to be everywhere all the time when things are happening. So to have those extra eyes and ears that are out there patrolling, a positive presence in the community, really does help your local R.C.M.P. Once they're up and going, they will create a way to get in contact with members, whether they call them and let them know something's happening, if it's something that needs to be called into 911 to create that log, because without creating that log, we're not sure. The crime mapping will be off, you guys aren't going to get enough members to come cover, things like that. So having citizens on patrol out there doing things like that will also benefit your community in a number of other ways. I have been speaking with Tom on some questions that he had, and he was looking at your terms of reference, and I helped him with a few questions that he had with that. We've gone back and forth on a few different things there, and some of the members were concerned about their identity and people knowing who they were and that they were a part of Citizens on Patrol, and then possibly being targeted for doing something like that. So it's up to each group with social media how they want to utilize that. If they want to say these are who our members are, and if you don't want to be public and have people know who you are, for those reasons at first there may be some hesitance. That's something that you guys, that the group locally would decide on for how they want to do that with newspaper, social media, whatever. You'll find that there are some people that just aren't comfortable being a public face and would rather be a little more in the background for fear of maybe some backlash or something. But that's something, again, that you guys would decide on a community level, how you would go about that. Is there any questions? It's been a little bit since we've been together.
I just had a question regarding the committee structure. So if we were to form a committee here in Coaldale, who would all that consist of? Like, there would be a chairperson, obviously, then you need a treasurer.
So you would need a president, a treasurer, and a secretary. I have heard you have interest from possibly 8. I would be happy to come down and help, visit with them, do it in person, whatever works best to help them go about that. You do need to fill in paperwork for societies through Alberta, through the province. That does take some time. Like, I believe right now they might even be at least a year behind in paperwork. So that's something that, even with having a possible 8 people interested right now, I would strongly suggest getting those people together as soon as possible, having them have a discussion on who would like to do what roles, where they feel comfortable, and putting your paperwork in. You can change those roles as you progress. You just write into societies, change the roles, move things around, how people feel comfortable and where they see they may have a better fit. But I would suggest getting your paperwork in because it does take a little while to get that process going through societies.
And where this programs are running currently, how much involvement does the council or administration have with the program?
So the program would be separate from you guys as a council, but no program can run without the support of their local MD or their town council or their local R.C.M.P. Without the support from all of those different bodies, you're not going to have a productive group. Strictly because I've seen it where different groups don't have that support and the members are, well, why am I even doing this? Why am I out there at night in the dark spending all this time when I could be at home where it's warm? And to show them that they have that support from mayor and council and from their local R.C.M.P, it does give people more value. They feel like what they're doing is a benefit to the community. So without you guys being there to support them, you will see membership not be as high because people need to have that. They need to feel appreciated. You don't need to handhold, you don't need to be there to do everything. They will be a completely separate entity, but they do need the support. Financial backing as well to start. We have talked about you guys giving them a bit of support to start, and what you have offered gives them time to look for different funding, different grants, to fundraise themselves, but what you have offered gives them more than enough to start with.
Okay, and then for the liaison officer, what would his role or her role be in this?
He can report to the groups on areas of interest, like if there's certain areas that are being targeted more often than others, Kyler would be able to say, is it possible for you guys to go check this out? Could you keep an eye on this area? We have a number of different programs that we do where we'll leave a positive ticket on vehicles, and it's just reminders on, don't leave your garage door remotes in. And there's different things that we'll do where we legally have to have an R.C.M.P member with us because we have encountered a little bit of people being uncomfortable that we're near their vehicles and just asking questions in general. So to have a member present really helps with that. There's a few other initiatives with just making people better aware on how to have their property not be such a target. Different things to do, and there's programs through R.C.M.P. I brought some pamphlets actually to leave with Kyler that I got from community policing on things that members locally could do with the groups. I brought a few different projects for him to look at, but all of those, when your COP members are doing those, it's very helpful to have a liaison with you. Sometimes as well when we're out in public, out in community, people do see us as volunteers, but they take us more seriously when we do have these gentlemen with us. It comes with a lot of responsibility for just people to be going out and doing this within their community, and having the respect of the R.C.M.P is really beneficial for that.
And just before I open it up for rest of council, in the video they show where the car they were using had a magnetic sign on the door. Is that something you recommend that be done? I'll open it up to Mike too, what your feeling is on that.
It's hit and miss on how well it works. We have some communities whose entire vehicle is wrapped. Now, one of the benefits when I've had officers do ride-alongs with us on patrol is they like that they're going in and they don't have the lights on top. They don't have all the paint on the side of the vehicle, and they can kind of go in and just see people. Like, I've had officers in my vehicle and we've caught people breaking in to residents or to a business in an industrial area. But if they were to have been on duty in their vehicle, that does show more. You're not really going in undercover, so to speak. But I have found if you're going through certain areas of town slower, say trailer park, campgrounds, things like that, having those signs on your vehicle are really important, because with two of the groups that I work very closely with, we found that we were being reported for being suspicious vehicles. And then once we put that identification on the outside of the vehicle when we were going through those communities, it did help us. And that's another reason why we check in with these guys, to let them know when we're out. So I guess it's kind of personal preference to see how well you feel it's gonna work, and try it. If it works for you, definitely keep it. I know some places that love it, but it depends on the community too.
Mike?
Yeah, I haven't worked in a community where they actively, visibly mark their vehicles for a number of reasons. Kimberly had mentioned about the anonymity a little bit. People don't want others to know that they're doing that. It makes that vehicle maybe a bit more of a target, easily recognizable. I think a way around it is for the town to consider putting up signs saying this is a community, a COP community, and get that message out, and let the people, the advocates, go out and do their thing kind of just in their own time in their own vehicles and try that first. But it has its benefits, especially for those highly public events. Like if they're going to a fair or something and trying to get funding, but it's their own vehicle, so you're putting a magnet, which you could wreck the paint. Anyway, there's all kinds of things that will come up. But I think you start out small and see how dedicated of a group you have first. One thing that Kimberly also mentioned is the processing. Criminal record checks aren't done quickly. Like those are anywhere from 1 to 3 months. So she's right. Get your stuff in now, whoever's interested, and make sure they meet the minimum requirements before you even get going. And start that way. It's very interesting because we have to have a good way to communicate, and I'm not sure if your members, in your experience, you're using this new app on the phone for information sharing, but that seems to be the new way. Cell phones, or everybody has one, and everybody has a smartphone, so it makes sense. We can't give our radios out anymore. It used to be we just give portable radio to them and away they go, right? But our radios are classified and secure now, secure channels, so we're not allowed to give those out to anybody. So just some things to consider as you move along in the process. The biggest thing that I've seen is you need that core group to really be dedicated and start and want to see this initiative go. And then when others see that and hear that, that will attract more people. That's my observations.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from council? Councilor Avery?
Thank you, Mayor. As we're setting this up, have we thought of working with Colehurst and Pitcher Butte, the county with their Rural Crime Watch? Because if we're going to set up, if we have to start a society, there's no point in having 3 or 4 societies that's patrolled by one detachment. I think we should look at this as a partnership, and maybe there's some seed money provincially for the collaboration into this type of project. And I don't know if we've thought anything outside of our corporate limits with this.
Yeah, I'm not familiar other than the Rural Crime Watch, if that's even still in existence.
It is
Okay.
in your area. McNally also had a group who is policed through Coaldale. They have been on the back burner a bit lately. They worked just for many different reasons, but if you wanted to look, because of the size of the area that your detachment does cover, to have little satellite offices or satellite groups, but just ensuring that as you do that, that you have a communication, that you have those members are getting together so everybody has a common goal and you don't have people going off and kind of doing their own thing, that everybody is on the same page looking to do the same, they have the same objective in mind. I would strongly suggest, with having 8 people right now interested, to jump and do it, because if the more you hold back, they're going to lose that interest. So it's like the whole strike while the iron's hot. Like if you have them interested now, move with it, and you can make changes as you go. But if you have these people that are interested, I would really suggest getting it going as soon as possible.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Chapman?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Staff Sergeant Kimberly. Mike, I totally agree with both of you in terms of your points in particular. For me, it's all about building trust in the community, that people understand the, a sort of a quasi third set of eyes out there that people can put their trust in, and that those mechanisms are in place, and I think that's really helpful. I guess from my perspective, to get this thing started, what Kimberly, maybe you can help us understand a little better in terms of the chicken and egg thing. To form a society, you need to put the paperwork in. However, if you in order for the insurance to kick in, what's the process for that? So would we have to have the society status first before we can get the insurance coverage that would be required?
Yes, once you have your societies, they'll get an email as soon as they're approved. They can contact me, I'll get them rolling with the provincial body, and we'll get everything set up for them that way. It's not hard. It just is going to take a little bit of time. So get this group of people together that are interested, sit down over some coffee or tea and just visit about who would like to do what roles, how you would like to move forward with it. Once they get that done, they get their society's paperwork in, I will help them with insurance and getting that going. And then we can sit down with the local detachment, and then they would figure out, how do they want to do their reporting? How do they want to let them know that they're out? How do they want to go through the process of interviewing people, new people that are interested, and just different things like that, just for getting going. It's really not a lot. It just does take a lot of time right now to get it rolling. And like I said, I'm more than happy to come through and help them get that going.
For these 8 individuals, then it would be helpful if they did their criminal checks right away. If you're saying staff sergeant, that takes up to 3 months to get that process through, and in the meantime, the group can start applying for the paperwork as needed, and then I don't know, the seed money, has already been talked about. So those are my thoughts.
Okay, thank you. Any other? Go ahead, Mike.
Just wanted to address Councillor Avery's comment. I understand the concept of making it bigger, but that also becomes problematic because you have people from Colehurst who probably don't want to drive to Coaldale to patrol. It's easier to control a smaller region, and the people hopefully live in that area or close to it and have a vested interest. The bigger you get with that, Rural Crime Watch farm communities are different than municipal. It's a different program. I'm not saying it can't be done. I haven't seen it work anywhere yet. And the Citizens on Patrol is totally different than Rural Crime Watch as far as the way the program runs. It's more of a fan-out system for farmers and businesses in the industrial areas or in the county to keep an eye out for a certain vehicle or whatever. So different concepts, but not saying you can't blend them for sure. Just wanted you to be aware of that.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Council or Deputy Mayor Beekman.
Thank you, Mayor. I guess going off of your response to Councillor Avery, could we not operate something where the society would be an umbrella, but within the society we operate to our own kind of jurisdiction, where you still have your 4 people from Colehurst would set up, you still have your 8 people from Coaldale would set up, and we just stick to our end. I think the idea of one umbrella society just expedites the process for everybody else who might be interested. I would just hate to see we get going on this and all of a sudden 3 or 4 other neighboring communities, they want in on it and they're backlogged by bureaucracy, I guess. So I don't know, I guess that was more the way that I saw what Councillor Avery had said. Maybe that would work.
It might, for sure. That would be something to explore with.
Communication is really important to make sure that that's going to work, to have people in the different areas. Like, I would suggest trying it, but making sure that everybody knows to communicate with each other, because your town setting and your rural setting are very different environments. Like, Coaldale compared to Colehurst is even quite different just because of size and geography, but it's worth a shot if you have people that are interested. but you would need to have dedicated individuals that would want to work on the communicating as a whole with send somebody to one main meeting and then have your separate meetings. But you would just have to make sure people are communicating with it. It could work. I mean, you could try it, but
Like it was said, we can start small and we can
yeah.
branch out from there. Any other questions from council? Councillor Pickering.
Thank you, Mayor Van Rijn. Through to Kimberly, how much or how often do other communities patrol, like their towns and stuff, that the citizens on patrol? Like, are they out every night? Or what have you seen so far?
It varies, and it's been very different since COVID. Different groups will set up how they want to have it done. Some are like, you need to do so many patrols per every 2 months. You need to do 5 hours for each person. Other ones will set up a schedule, and you have to go at least once within your schedule, rotating depending on how many members you have, would depend on how often you would go out. But even with having that one set schedule, if you have another set of members that want to go out on another night and it's not their week, they can still go out. So I've had times where we have members go out 3 times in a week and it's not even their week, but they just happened to have some extra time that they wanted to dedicate, or we noticed a pickup in crime or in certain areas. We just wanted to do a little extra patrolling, and that's where the communication from the detachment comes in very handy. So it's something that each group would decide on their own how often they want to do it, and then you would work from there. But just because you're not on a schedule and you're not set to go out doesn't mean that you can't go out. We definitely want people out as often as possible, but just as long as they're communicating with the R.C.M.P that they are out.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Mayor, if I could, through to Kimberly again, thank you. One question I forgot to ask was, do you have to technically be on shift to be doing, to be reporting anything? For example, we use Summerfest here for an example. So if we've got pretty much most of the community turns out for that, but if somebody for Citizens on Patrol that isn't on shift notices something, are they still able to use the Citizens on Patrol resources to report the crime, or can they only use the Citizens on Patrol resources while on shift?
They can still utilize that. So what we would be doing if we're on shift and we see something, we're going to be calling 911. Or if it's something where it's not something that needs to be addressed right away, like we notice a gate at a business is open all the time, or it's open now and hasn't normally been open, like we would email our liaison and let them know that. So if you have anybody who's ever out in the community and notices something and they feel they need to call 911, I would do it at any time. And that just comes back to reporting, because the more anything is reported, the more stats show up for your local detachment, the more members that you can get, because so many people see stuff and they go on Facebook and they tell their buddies about it, but if you don't call the detachment has no idea that it's happening, and they have no way to delegate resources to it.
I just have 2 more questions. So I just want to back up to council's role and our administration's role in all of this. So we all have busy schedules. So I guess my question is, do we have to have a member of council on the Citizens on Patrol committee, or they'll just come and report to council as needed?
They can report to council as needed, unless you have somebody that would like to do it separate from council. They can do that, but you do not have to have somebody dedicated. No.
Okay, thank you. And then from the administrative role, as far as helping with some paperwork, would be the extent of that then?
Yes.
And then as far as grants and such, we can help write the grants as well.
That would be appreciated if you have people that haven't done that in the past.
We have experts.
That would be perfect.
Perfect. And then I just want to back up now to the liaison officer's role. So obviously they do shift work. So when the people that are going to be out patrolling, they have to sign in. Can somebody answer that question, how that's going to work? So they have to go to the detachment, or they just call, or they email? How does that work?
Different groups do it differently. Some will pick up the phone outside the detachment, call and say, I would like to speak to an on-duty member. I'm with Citizens on Patrol. Just let him know that I'm out. Sometimes if somebody's in the building, they'll come out and talk to you. They'll be able to see your vehicle. You can give them a description of it, so they'll know that you're out. Other times, dispatch will just let the members know that you're out. We have some groups that will leave a magnet on the back door of the detachment to let them know that, hey, we stopped by, nobody was here, but we're out. And that would be something that each detachment sets up with their group on what's going to work best for them for that communication. But it's different for everybody.
Mike, any comments on that?
Yeah, I mean, Kyler is liaison. He works shift work. He's not always going to be on duty. His role is more attending their meetings once a month or twice every biannually, or however many meetings they have, providing that a little bit of initial training along with Kimberly or somebody from our community policing. I would expect that everybody should go through an orientation before they are given the reins to go ahead, because we don't want to see the vigilantism. We don't want to see somebody put themselves in harm's way, that type of thing. So we will got to get some good terms of reference that I believe you're going to speak to about what our members should and shouldn't do, right? So to protect them for sure. But however we decide to do it, whether it's you go to the detachment and sign in, or call our dispatch and let them know, we'll figure that out as we go. That won't be a problem at all.
And you brought up a good point. Kimberly, in October we were talking about the training. Do they have to go somewhere for that, or do they come here?
No, actually, it's a retired sergeant from the R.C.M.P. will come here and train everybody, and the provincial body will pay for him to come.
And that's like a one-day thing, or?
Yes. Just an afternoon or an evening, whatever is best.
Okay, perfect. Councillor Chapman.
Thank you, Mayor. I guess everything comes down to money, and I was just curious as to what kind of budget amounts do most communities try to achieve for operational purposes.
Making sure that you have the coverage to start with your societies, and then your insurance that comes through on a yearly. Now, some groups that have been around for a while have done more fundraising, have a little more in the bank, have a bit more backup behind them. They will start to pay mileage and things like that. It depends on each group, but like I said, with the seed money that you guys have allocated is more than enough to help them for the first year and moving into their second year, helping to cover their insurance. But they would need to look at, is there other grants or municipal funding or town funding or anything provincially that would help them? Are there local organizations that would like to help back them? Sponsorships, things like that.
Okay, thank you. And then, Tom, question for you for the terms of reference. And is that something that we can have on a sooner than later agenda package so that we can see the terms of reference?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Yeah, as Kimberly touched on, we've corresponded a fair bit in just making some changes to kind of bring the terms of reference up to speed, and it'd just be a matter of kind of making some of those changes, which I of course could do quickly, and then we could definitely pass that along for sure.
And the terms of reference, we should share that with the staff sergeant then too, so that he can review.
Absolutely.
Okay, so then we can do that here sooner than later.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay, last chance, questions, comments? Any questions for us? Well, thank you very much for everyone for coming out, and appreciate your time and effort into I can tell that you're passionate about this, Kimberly, so I appreciate that. So could I get someone to make a motion that council receive the Citizens on Patrol delegation as information? Councillor Pickering, any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Carried unanimously. Okay, thanks very much again.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to agenda item 7.2, Under bylaws and policies, we have flag display policy C-016 amendment. We have our municipal clerk, Lana Anthony, presenting.
It is. Thank you, Mayor, members of council. I am presenting an amendment to the flag display policy. At the January 24th regular council meeting, council had directed administration to come back at a future council meeting with a proposal to integrate our community flagpole at our new location at Civic Square. This was a great opportunity to make some minor amendments as well to our existing flag policy to bring it back up to speed. We currently have 5 locations, town-owned facility locations that house our flags. They are the Civic Square, which is our new location, which now has 4 flags. We also have the welcome sign and the cenotaph, which have 3 flags displayed, and the fire hall and the gym of the West Museum each have 1 pole that displays the Canada flag. The staff report that is presented, I do have a few amendments suggested on there. I kind of made a summary on the second page. I expanded the definitions that are referenced within the policy and the areas of responsibility, as well as providing the 5 locations of the flags that I just mentioned, and the addition of the community flag display process and application and rules for the intended use. I also added the two dates to the list of the municipal flags that are displayed at half-mast to include the Battle of Vimy Ridge, as well as the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. The process that I included for the community flagpole, I borrowed heavily in consultation with the City of St. Albert. They do have an existing policy that references this, as well as a little bit of conversation with their communications person. Some things that I learned along the way as well. So they are also in the process of updating their policy again now based on what they've learned in their process too. So for today, I have my report with the revised policy. I'm happy to answer any questions that council may have.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Lana? Councillor Chapman.
Thank you, Mayor, and through to Lana, thank you so much for all your hard work on this file. Just two questions to you. Number one is the number of polls that you described for us. I just wanted to ensure that in the policy, the only 4th flagpole would be at the town office. Is that correct?
That is correct, yeah.
Okay. My second question is with regards to council. And just want to ascertain that council will be sort of the what's the word I'm looking for? Would be the approval for any requests that come to council, come to the town.
That is correct. I believe the last page of the report, I included kind of a draft for the flag raising request, and I used this based on what City of St. Albert had included, and so this would be like a form that you could populate right on the website. Like it would just be like a fill in the form and then submit your request type of thing. But I did write the policy that the final decision on which flags and the period of time proposed is at the discretion of council.
Thank you, and I appreciate your display of how the flags are displayed in accordance. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Any further questions for Lana? So your motion options are option 1, that council provide approval of flag display policy C-016 as presented, or option 2, the same policy with amendments, and option 3, that council direct administration to conduct further research on the flag display policy options and come back at a future council meeting with those results. So option 1, 2, or 3, can I get someone to sponsor one of those, please? Councillor Reese.
Thank you, Mayor Van Rijn. I'll make a motion that council provide approval of flag display policy C-016 as presented.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing that, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you, Lana. Okay, moving on to agenda item 8.3. Identify the new location of the municipal office. We have our CAO, Kaylin Hastings, presenting. Go ahead, Kaylin.
Thank you, Mayor. The purpose of this report is to request a resolution from council to identify the new address of the municipal office location. This is a requirement under the Municipal Government Act. So I'm making my once every 50-year request to council to pass a resolution to identify the location as the civic address of 200 1801 20th Avenue. From there, I'll turn it back over to you, Mayor.
Thank you. So I'm looking for a motion that council appoint property known civically as number 200, located at 1801 20th Avenue, Coaldale, Alberta, as the official municipal office location for the town of Coaldale. Councillor Chapman, any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay, we have another delegation presenting here this evening. We have Rebecca Good and Abe Wolf from Douglas J. Bergen and Associates, and I see somebody else with you as well.
Yes, I'm not Abe.
Okay.
I'm Jennifer Tribble, and I'm the executive director of My City Care. Abe asked me to come and sub in.
Okay, can I just get you to say your name again, please?
Jennifer Tribble.
Thank you. If you want to have a seat at the gallery table, please.
So we only have a single microphone, so
And just for the public record, could I just get you to introduce yourself one more time and say what your position is, please?
Yep, I'm Jennifer Tribble, and I'm the executive director of My City Care.
Thank you.
I'm Rebecca Good. I am the marketing coordinator with Bergen and Associates.
Thank you. So when you're ready, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. I have the opportunity here to present to you Rebecca and Jennifer here to discuss an opportunity for Council to consider with respect to an affordable housing issue in the town of Coaldale. So administration was approached some time ago with an opportunity to consider a proposal for a affordable housing initiative in Coaldale, which is a proposal to move 25 affordable housing units into the Season subdivision in southeast Coaldale. And this proposal would be through My City Care and accessing a program called the Rapid Housing Initiative, which is an initiative under the Canada Municipal Housing Corporation. And what this initiative is fundamentally is federal government support, financial support for the development of affordable housing, and it's a competitive program, and it provides for developers with incentives to build units which are then provided at a below cost rate, a below identified market rate, if you will, over a period of, I believe it's 20 years, for the purpose of providing affordable housing in the communities which are successful in applying for the program. The program is competitive. There's a limited amount, a fairly substantial amount, but a limited amount of funding that's available. And so applications for that program are due by March 15th. And then that program will review all the applications that come in and determine to support those applications which are deemed a best fit. One of the specifics of the Rapid Housing Initiative, and I won't get into the details, I'll allow Jen and Rebecca to do so, but is that it is to support programs which develop these units rapidly, fairly quickly. And so the opportunity within the seasons with the types of units that are proposed definitely meet those criteria. From the planning and development perspective, what we're talking about is the moving in of housing. So from, with respect to my role overseeing the town's traditional planning and development services, this is really not something that requires significant municipal consideration. This is housing within a subdivision design for this type of housing, so from that perspective it's relatively simple. Where the municipality comes into play is with respect to support for the application. So one of the criteria that the scoring matrix for this initiative considers is whether or not the municipality is contributing towards this development. And so we've looked at the proposal and we consider a number of opportunities to support. We've looked at a high level considering a $50,000 contribution for the town towards this hinged upon the development of the units themselves. From the town's perspective, that would represent approximately 1 to 2 year payback from those developments, from taxation from those units, assuming, of course, that they're assessed within market values as they typically are within the cities. In addition to that, the town could support the application by doing things like waiving development charges, which is something that I understand the applications look upon quite favorably and realistically is not a significant burden on the town for this particular proposal. And we would be prepared to prepare that. The town would not need to engage in the program unless the application is successful. So what if the recommendation is followed, the town could provide a letter of support to support the application, and then once the application is successful, if it is successful, then we would go ahead and enter into an agreement with My City Care to support the application. With that, I will allow my colleagues here to present to council and provide an overview of what's proposed.
Absolutely. So I'm going to speak on behalf of My City Care. Like I said, my name is Jennifer Tribble. I'm the executive director of My City Care. 6 years ago, we started My City Care, and we started it in Lethbridge, and we rapidly grew in the 6 years to 10 different locations across Alberta and into BC. We've made it kind of our mission to focus on areas of basic human needs such as food, housing, health, water, social justice, and clothing for families in particular who are struggling to meet their basic needs. In the last year alone, we've been able to help over 38,972 individuals with needs in Lethbridge alone. That's not including our Tabor location, Medicine Hat, or Brooks. We have quite a few different partners and individuals working in those locations as a part of My City Care, and the need in Southern Alberta is extensive. We've handed out over 1,037 hygiene kits to women in need. We've partnered with 91 agencies in Lethbridge. In Alberta alone, we have 250 community partners, and we've invested over 7,000 volunteer hours into just doing community service programs here in the Lethbridge, between here and Tabor community. On top of this, we met similar needs in 53 other communities in Alberta and 7 other communities in BC. In May 2021, the Community and Social Development for the City of Lethbridge challenged us as a community to come and become more engaged in the current housing crisis within the City of Lethbridge. My City Care believes in that housing is a basic human right, and we also recognize that the 6 areas of need that we've targeted for our mission, we've yet to address housing. Therefore, we immediately booked a follow-up meeting with the city and learned more about how we can get involved with the housing needs in the community. We recognize the current need in Lethbridge area, and as evidence in different publications throughout the city, we know there's a core housing need of 3,900 units for our community and core housing need alone. We recognize the future of affordable housing and the need in our community with the current economic and projected population increases within the next few years. We recognize the need for affordable housing for our Indigenous populations. We also recognize the need for housing for our incoming immigrant populations. We've seen a rise of newcomer families utilizing our services across all of Southern Alberta, and a lot of them need housing. Housing is a huge basic need. Because of this, our priority population for these projects are women and children. We are looking at doing multiple projects and looking at all of our options, as Rapid Housing One is one of a few that we're looking at. And because of who we are, we're looking at the communities that we're actively involved in. We have several families, we have quite a few families from the Coaldale area that we serve between here and Tabor, and a lot of individuals looking for housing. With that being said, I'm going to turn it over to Rebecca to talk about the specific project.
Okay. So just a bit of a rundown on, So just to give you a background, so the Rapid Housing Initiative provides funding to expedite the delivery and affordable housing units to people and populations that are vulnerable and targeted under the National Housing Strategy. And the initiative will support the construction of more than 4,700 units across Canada. So it's $1.5 billion for Rapid Housing Initiative in 2021-2022 to address the urgent housing needs of Canadians who are vulnerable by providing them with adequate affordable housing in short order. So, like Jen said, women and children mostly. Housing affordability within 18 months and affordability for a minimum of 20 years. So that's what they are requesting. So eligible recipients will receive funding for one of three types of the housing, so new construction, modulars, and conversion and rehabilitation of existing housing. Eligibility criteria is standard rental, transitional, permanent supportive housing, single room occupancy, and senior housing, which will exclude delivery of healthcare. Must have a minimum of 5 units or best. Minimum contribution request of $1 million. Primary use is residential, and permanent housing for a long-term tenancy of 3 months or more. So the applicants will be required to achieve building occupancy within 18 months of the date of the contribution agreement. And we see that very feasible within this season's development. All units must serve the affordable. So housing is paying less than 30% of gross income on housing costs or the shelter component of any provincial or territorial income assistance. So nonprofits and Indigenous organizations not wholly owned by another level of government must provide confirmation from a government source that operating and or program support subsidies have been secured to support the project's long-term viability. So our proposal, as Bergen and Associates, strongly support the Rapid Housing Initiative, are asking council if they will assist in contributing to our effort to further develop the season's development and apply for the Rapid Housing Grant. We are fully prepared to assist council by doing all required paperwork, as Cameron had stated. We are fully required, doing all the required paperwork needed to apply. By establishing deadline by March 15, as he had said, Bergen Associates will ask council's approval and financial contribution to go ahead with this project. We have put together the rent's affordability numbers based on 60% below market rate for your review, and these numbers are based on 25 predetermined lots in the season's development, which we'll show here. So 3 bedrooms, 20 foot wides, and 3 bedroom 22 wide. So 13 and 12, so that equals 25 lots. And then it shows you total rent revenue with debt, gross income, operating expenses, and surplus deficit. So you can see a surplus deficit of $22,000. So based on our affordability rate, which is the 60% below market, so we would be renting these out. So the 20 wide at $632 a month, and then the 22 wide at $675 a month, which is very affordable. So with the Rapid Housing Grant of $7.5 million.
Okay, thank you. So I appreciate you giving us all that information. I just need clarification on a couple of items then. So who's going to subsidize the rent then when you're having it at that low of a level?
Who's going to subsidize the rent at that low?
Like
It's
the
not.
$600 and some that you have to pay. Obviously, that's very low.
Yeah, it's very
So
yes.
So that's what comes from the grant application from the Rapid Housing Initiative.
Yes.
so
The
the
$7.5 million
Yes.
that's coming in for the grant, that would be subsidizing.
okay. And then my other question is that at what point then will Bergen and Associates own those modular homes? Like the length of the program.
So my understanding is that is it My City Care? My City Care would be the owner of those units, and then the $7.5 million is basically My City Care receiving a loan fundamentally from the program, though it's, I believe, a fairly substantial portion of which is forgiven. So it's kind of a combination of debt and
Okay, so just to be clear, then My City Care will own those modular homes.
Yeah.
Okay, and then who owns the property that they're going to be sitting on then? Because in the seasons they own the property.
The seasons, I imagine, would be the owners of the property.
Okay, and then so for the condo fees and everything that the current owners have to pay, their My Care will pay for that then?
We're in the early stages of developing this program just because the deadline is very tight.
Okay.
for the 15th, so we will definitely take into account all those things. Abe is our numbers guy,
Okay.
and he definitely would
Yeah.
probably be able to do
Yeah.
a much deeper
He does have
analysis of
operating
these.
expenses in
Yes.
there, but
Yes, which would include most of those fees.
correct, which would include,
And then my last question is, how do you plan on rolling this out to the existing residents that live in the Seasons?
If it goes through and is approved, we'll do a full engagement campaign, and we'll definitely do community engagement once that happens. But it's affordable housing, and it's not the families that we'll be putting in there. They're definitely going to be families that are in need, but we're going to be very specific about the families that we would place in those types of situations. And there will be a vetting process that happens and strong guest management.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Chapman.
Thank you, Mayor. Sort of led me into my questions as well. For CAM, my question on the 50,000 then, is that just a one-time support?
Thank you for the question. So as I understand, again, the grant is fairly complicated, and we look at this as an opportunity to explore it, assuming that we would have council's support for it. When we look at the 50,000, it would be one time, and it would also be payment contingent upon the arrival of the units. So the town would be secure. The town would be providing 50,000 upfront prior to the arrival of the units. That 50,000 would be when the units are arrived and installed within a day.
My next two questions are for Rebecca. With respect to the Seasons, are the mobile homes consistent with the overall presentation in the Seasons?
yes.
Okay, thanks. And my final question to Rebecca is, are the mobile homes of a certain age group, such as, and in the past, Doug's really been specific
Yes.
on 10 years or less or whatever, is that
Yes.
going to be
Correct,
consistent?
yes, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Deputy Mayor Beekman.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for the presentation. My one question is going to be more on the responsibility of the status of the properties, because we've stated My City Care is going to be building owner, but the Seasons will be landowner. So who's responsible for delinquencies and maintenance of the property?
Yes, we've talked about hiring property management people to help take care of that. It's a conversation we've been having with Doug, and it will be an ongoing conversation with Doug, and we will make sure that the properties are taken care of and up to count.
Okay.
The Seasons does have a property management right now, so I would imagine that
I
they
think we will
would
just contract
the same people.
Okay, so that would fall under the Seasons.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions, comments? So we have a couple of motion options. One is to receive My Care delegation as information, or that council direct administration to prepare letter of support for My City Care application to the Rapid Housing Initiative, and furthermore to prepare an agreement for supporting the initiative should the application be approved. And that's going to be a one-time ask of 50,000. So I'll open it up to our CAO how we can word that motion.
Sure. Thank you, Mayor. If this is the direction council would like to go, my suggestion would be to add just that language such that the full resolution would say that council direct administration to prepare a letter of support for the My City Care application to the Rapid Housing Initiative, and furthermore to prepare an agreement for supporting the initiative should the application be approved, up to a maximum of $50,000 contingent on receiving funds from the Rapid Housing Initiative through the federal government.
Perfect. Anybody care to? Well, go ahead, Councilor Avery.
I'll sponsor that motion.
Okay. Councilor Avery's got a motion with the amendment.
Yes.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Carried unanimously. Well, thank you. Good presentation. And
Thank
we
you.
wish you luck with your project.
Thank you so much.
Okay, moving on to agenda item 10.1, council and committee reports. We have a verbal update from Councillor Chapman regarding the Southern Alberta Canadian Association. Councilor Chapman, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. On January the 18th, I attended the AGM for the Southern Alberta Canadier Association. It was held via Zoom, and of course there was 21 of us in attendance, and some from all across Canada. If you remember Dan Dirksen, who presented to Council on September 12th of last fall, he's been on the board for them with them for almost 17 years, and as president, he certainly served well. At the AGM, they elected a new president, Tina Magason, so she's the board's new president, and of course they've expanded their board to a number of directors from around the province. And of course, Dan has been with SACA now for 17 years as a liaison with Palliser School Division. Now, the membership to SACA is free, as the town is aware, and the seed money to commence the association was funded through a provincial grant through FCSS provincially. So there's also been some additional donations from public health in Southern Alberta. And as we know, according to the Alberta demographics, there are approximately 54,000 Mennonites of Low German culture living in Southern Alberta, and mainly those moved from Mexico to settle and employ here in Southern Alberta. Now, over the past 20 years, many have chosen to stay and seek year-round employment rather than the traditional seasonal work, which they used to travel back and forth every season back to Mexico. So most have settled in the area around Tabor, Grassy Lake, Coaldale, and of course, living conditions, the economy, and violence in Mexico forced many of the LGM community to immigrate to Canada. Now, it's really been difficult for census takers to really get a handle on how many of this LGM community live in Southern Alberta. Mainly because they are very, very transient in the sense of moving around. They migrate from community to community quite often looking for employment. And so has been difficult for us. John Davidson School here in Coaldale seems to be holding a consistent number of students. And of course, we're learning that many of these students are now staying in school to achieve higher goals of employment. During the 2 years of COVID, many of the LGM community had left Canada for Mexico to get away from the governing protocols confining their livelihoods, culture, and values. However, many of these have returned to the employment and communities they had earlier settled in. About 400 people, as I know and understand, of Low German heritage live here in Coaldale. And of course, John Davidson School runs and operates by the school division, and 100% of its students are of that heritage. Palliser is encountering that more students are now staying in the educational system as opposed to leaving their traditional dropping out in the early grades. So SACA's mission, Southern Alberta Canadier Association's mission, is to help bridge the gaps in health, education, culture, and community. FCSS and AHS have begun to make really key inroads into the special independent community. There are a number of what they call POW-tune videos on health, which you can see on YouTube. And as well, SACA has been hosting a number of conferences, and on June 6th, they'll be hosting one at the Lethbridge College for service providers. Most of the members of SACA are employed in health or in mental wellness. And when I asked about the provision of EMS and urgent care in Coaldale, they were they jumped on really quickly and brought some answers to me, which are really interesting. Their replies were of critical support needed to rebuild these essential needs in our community, particularly with EMS. Further to this, they are expressed the reality that most of the LGM community migrate around the province, particularly for employment needs, and consequently almost all of them do not have family doctors, thus seeking emergency care when needed. And further to this, many employees do not seek medical care because they're afraid to lose their jobs. So some parents, and particularly women, are home keepers and either do not drive or do not have the means to transport to a hospital. So with that, I trust that our Minister of Health will recognize these essential needs and limitations of medical access. And that concludes my report, and I'll move my report for information.
Okay, thank you. I just have a question for our municipal clerk. So Councillor Chapman is going to be the council rep on this committee. Do we need to have a motion to put him on that committee? Like when we do those ones in October, do we make a motion?
Is this going to be a committee that will be like a reoccurring every year? That
Yeah.
we'd like to keep it on the schedule? It'd be
Yeah.
nice to have a motion and to support it.
Okay. So then, Councillor Chapman made a motion to adopt his report as presented. We'll do that one first. Anybody have any questions for Councillor Chapman? Okay. I'll call the vote on that. All those in favor? Carried unanimously. And then we need a motion that Councillor Chapman be appointed to the Canadier, Southern Alberta Canadier Association. Anybody care to make that motion? Councillor Pickering, all those in favor? Carried unanimously.
Just a question, Mayor, I think I saw an email right after the report that was made in September where he had asked if we, Dan Dirksen had asked if we'd be interested in belonging, and so we did make a motion to support myself and Councillor Reese.
No, I look back, we did not.
Okay.
So, and then Councillor Reese would be the alternate then. But that would be for this year then, and then we'll
That's
revisit
correct.
that again next October.
I thought we had already decided
No.
that.
Okay, moving on. We have under 11.1 correspondence, a letter from Alberta Health Services Zone Director, Aaron Lowe, regarding an update on the ambulatory care at Dakota Healthcare Center. So the letter basically said they were going to work on some of the requests made by the doctors, and that's work in progress. And we're still receiving monthly updates as far as the amount of patients that attend the Coldell Healthcare Center, so we're going to keep doing that as well. And in a perfect world, we'll be meeting with Aaron Lowe again in about 4 more months to get further updates as to where we are with the ambulatory care and the hours of operation. There was some discussion regarding the X-ray and lab, whether or not they were going to extend the hours or they were going to adjust the hours. So instead of starting at 8 or 8:30 in the morning, they would start a little bit later, but then run later as well. So people that have to go in the evenings will be able to go there. I need a motion for someone to adopt the correspondence. Councillor Reese, all those in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. That concludes the open portion of the meeting. So I'll need a motion that council move into closed session at 6:51 p.m. in accordance with section 197-4-B of the Municipal Government Act to discuss matters exempt from disclosure for items 13.1, 13.2, subject to section 16, business interests of a third party, items 13.2, subject to section 17, personal privacy, section 25, economic and other interests of the public body, and section 27, privileged information. So I need a motion that council go into closed session. Wants to make that one?
I'll make that one.
Deputy Mayor Beekman, all those in favor? Carried unanimously. We'll take a 10-minute break.